What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hello and welcome. I have this year's holiday palettes from Oden'S, and these are so cute. They release holiday palettes just like these every single year, and they're some of my favorites from the brand, so I'm excited to dive into these. We're going to create two different looks with each palette. I'm going to show you comparisons to the palettes that they released in the past for the holiday season, and at the end of the video, I'm going to give you my first initial impression thoughts. Now, both of these palettes are going to be 16-pan palettes, and they retail for $43.90 a piece. Both of them are still currently available on the website, and there is a bundle option, but that bundle option includes the two palettes that they released last year. So if you already have those, or if you're not interested in them, that may not be the route to go, but they are still available. But let's go ahead and jump into the Rosy Jingle palette. This one is going to be your very pastel leaning palette. I like the color choices in here. I think it's beautiful. I feel like this is more of a winter leaning color story versus like a Christmas or holiday leaning color story. I'm just not getting that vibe from it. I do appreciate that we have some depth in here, and I think the shimmers look absolutely beautiful. The other one that we have is the Silvery Bliss palette, and out of the two that they released this year, this is going to be my favorite based off of the color story. I love the color selection here. I like the depth in here. I do feel like just based off of looking at it, maybe there is a little color overlap with the reds in here, but I like how this is more of a twist on a traditional Christmas color story. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I like the shimmers in here, and I'm excited to play with this one. I will have both of these palettes linked and listed down below in the description box, as well as everything else that I use to create my looks in today's video. So per usual, if you're ever curious about anything I use in any of my videos here on my channel, always check the description box. I squeeze as much information as I possibly can into that tiny little space. But let's go ahead and zoom in and start playing with our first palette. Alright, y'all, so we're going to start with the Rosy Jingle palette and create two looks with this one. So kind of what I'm thinking for the first look is I want to do something kind of yellow and brown. I think it's a very beautiful color combination. It can be a little bit more on the neutral side. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this really pretty yellow matte shade right here, which is called Joyful. I'm going to pick that up with a BK Beauty 212 brush, and I'm going to start by kind of pressing this in to my crease. So I'm going to build up a little bit of depth and definition with this shade. I want this to be kind of the main focal point of the look, is what I want the yellows to be. So I'm just going to start by packing this on my lid and just building up that shade. Now I probably could have gone in with a white eyeshadow base and really made this pop, but I never think to use a white eyeshadow base if I'm being completely honest, but that is showing up on my skin, so it's got some good pigmentation to it, and I'm liking the way that it's going on. Alright, so I'm going to wrap that shade down onto my lower lash line as well. So I'm just going to bring it all the way across my lower lash line and meet it up in my outer corner. Next, I'm going to go into this cool tone brown shade right here, which is called Warmth, and I'm going to pick that up with my BK Beauty 205 brush, and I'm going to put this in my outer portion of my lid. I'm not going to take it up super high. I'm just going to kind of bring it up to the crease and then kind of zhuzh my brush back and forth just to kind of blend everything together, and I'm going to bring this shade about halfway over on my lid. Alright, so I do want to add a little bit of depth into my outer corner, so I'm going to go into this deep warm brown shade down here, which is called Toffeef. I'm not sure if that's spelled wrong or if I'm missing the reference, but it does say Toffeef, Toffeef. If somebody knows the reference or if that's just a misprint, let me know down in the comment section. But I'm picking this shade up with a Sigma E42 brush, and I'm just kind of packing it right here on the very outer corner of my lid, and I am going to bring this down onto the outer corner of my lower lash line as well. So this isn't going to add a ton of depth, but it's going to give me a little something out here. Alright, so for all over the lid, I think I want to go in with this shade up here, this really pretty marbled shimmer shade, which is called Celebration Heart. So I'm going to pick that up on my finger. I'm just going to swirl it in there really quick because I want to see what this looks like. Oh my gosh, that is a stunning multi-chrome. Look at how gorgeous that is with all of those flips. It's got like orange, yellow, green, pink, purple. Little of everything. It's absolutely stunning. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and pick that up with my BK Beauty 203 brush. I am gonna spray this. I do already have my NYX glitter primer down, but I like to have that little bit of extra insurance so I can make sure that I don't get any fallout. All right, so I'm just gonna start by pressing this all over my lid. Oh my gosh, that shade is stunning. It is so reflective and shifty and smooth. I'm not getting any fallout. It's laying down beautifully on my lid. It's not accentuating texture, and I think that just looks beautiful with these matte shades. For the inner corner, I want to go into this duochrome shade right here, which is called New Year Wishes. It's this really pretty like chartreusey to pink shimmer shade. So I'm going to do a little swatch of this one right here. And I think that's going to look really pretty on the inner corner and next to that multi-chrome that we just put down. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that up with my Singe Beauty EO1 brush. I am going to spray this and I'm just going to pop it right in my inner corner, blending it up onto my lid and down onto my lower lash line. So I'm just going to pop it right in there. Oh, that's really pretty. It's not too much, it's just enough. It's a little more subtle than what I was thinking it was going to be, but let's go ahead and build it up just a little bit and see if that's going to increase the intensity. So I picked up a little bit more. We're going to spray it. Hello. And I'm going to pop that right in here. Yeah, definitely built up the intensity, but I think that shade is beautiful. All right, y'all, so this is the completed look, and I think this turned out really pretty. It's definitely very neutral and simple, but that multi-chrome on the lid and that duochrome in the inner corner really just brought this look to life. But let's go over what I used to finish off this look so we can create our second look with this palette. So in my lower waterline, I went in with my Victoria Beckham Satin Kajal Liner in the shade Cinnamon. I lined my lid with my Lancome Idole Ultra Precise Waterproof Liner in the shade Matte Syrup Brown, and then I went in with my YSL Lash Clash Mascara in the brown shade as well. But let's do our second look. So for this one, I really want to play with this pink shade up here and maybe a little bit of this lavender. So I'm actually going to start with this really pretty like watermelony pink shade up here, which is called Rosy Jingle. And I'm going to go ahead and pick that up with a Singe Beauty or a Sigma Beauty E28 brush. And I'm going to start by kind of packing this on my outer corner. So for this look, we're going to start dark and move light since this is more of a pastel palette. I shouldn't say more of, it is a pastel palette. So I'm going to start by pressing the shade right here in my outer corner, really packing it on and building up that intensity. And I am going to bring this down onto my lower lash line as well, just to kind of wrap it around my outer corner. All right, so now that I have that shade down and where I want it, I think I'm gonna go in with this really pretty pastel pink shade right here, which is called Pink Dream. And I'm gonna pick that up with my Morphe M453 brush. I could not read that. And I'm just gonna kind of buff this right along the edge of that first shade that I put down, that really pretty like watermelon pink shade. And I'm just gonna kind of soften the edge a little bit. And I am gonna bring this over into the rest of my crease right here, but I'm not gonna bring it any further than like right here where my crease starts to kind of go down towards the inner corner, because I think I wanna reserve that for that more lilac-y shade that we have. So I'm just kind of buffing right along the edges. And I am going to bring this down onto my lower lash line as well, just kind of softening everything, making sure that we don't have any harsh lines or anything like that. And again, I'm going to bring this almost all the way over. I'm going to meet it up to about the same spot on my lower lash line that I stopped on the lid. Now we're gonna go into this lavender shade down here, which is called Blue Cream. And I'm gonna pick that up with this Unearthly brush right here. This is a UC8-7 brush, and I'm gonna pop this into the inner corner of my lid. So I'm just gonna really pack it on right here. And then once I have that shade down, I'm gonna kind of bring it up into my crease and onto my lower lash line, meeting up with that pink shade that I put down, and then just blending those two shades together. Now these shouldn't mud up or do anything like that because both shades have the same kind of undertone to them. They're both a product of red. So I'm just gonna kind of blend them together and make sure that we don't have any harsh lines. That is so pretty. Oh my gosh, I love that. All right, so my lid is primed and ready to go. And for all over the lid, I think I want to start with this shade down here, this really pretty lavender sparkle shade. It's called Dreamy. So I'm going to pick up a little bit on my finger and we're going to do a swatch right here. Ooh, that is really pretty. That has the most beautiful reflect to it. It almost has a little bit of like a silver or a green undertone to it. But I'm going to go ahead and pick that up with my BK Beauty 203 brush. I drew a complete blank. I am going to spray this, of course, and I'm going to pack this all over my lid. I'm not going to bring anything into my inner corner. I want to leave it matte. But I'm just going to start by pressing this all over the lid. I did feel a little bit of fallout come out, and that could be because I didn't spray my brush really well. But I'm just going to press this, and you can see it's definitely got a little bit more of like that grainy pinky shift to it the further over towards the outer corner I get. All right, to blend the matte and the shimmer together just a little bit better, I'm gonna go into this shade right here, which is called Champagne. It's a very interesting shade name for this one, but it's like this really pretty kind of orangey shimmer shade, and I think that's gonna blend things together pretty nicely. I don't really have like a pink shimmer shade in this palette, so I'm gonna go ahead and pick that up once again with my BK Beauty 203 brush. I'm gonna spray it per usual, and I'm just gonna pop this right where those two shades meet to give us a softer blend, hopefully. So I'm just gonna kind of pack it right here and just kind of blend towards my inner corner. I don't want to blend towards the outer corner because I don't want to get rid of that hot pink shade. And then I'm going to flip my brush over to the clean side and just kind of go back and forth with zhuzhing motions, and that blends much better. But I do think I want to go back with a little bit of that first shade that I used, which is called Rosy Jingle. So I'm going to pick up a little bit more on that same brush that I used, and I am just going to very lightly tap it right here to kind of re-enter that shade and blend it just a little bit better. Yeah, that's much better. All right, y'all, so this is the second completed look with this palette, and I think this one turned out so fun and pretty. I really love the combination of the matte shades with that kind of lavender inner corner and that multi-chrome all over the lid. I think it's just so pretty, so fun, very bright and vibrant, especially since we're playing with a more pastel leaning palette. But let's go over what I used to finish off this look so we can turn the lights down, see the shift, the shimmer, and the sparkle, and then move on to the next palette in this collection. So in my lower waterline, I went in with a NYX Epic Wear liner. This is in the shade Pink Spirit, and then I lined my lid with my ZC liquid liner, and for mascara I went in with my Charlotte Tilbury Exaggerized mascara that I think is just about on its last leg. It was very flaky and very clumpy on my lashes. All right, so I've gone ahead and primed my eyes with my MAC Paint Pot in the shade Painterly. Let's go ahead and dive into the Silvery Bliss palette. I'm really excited about this one. I think it has some really unique tones in here. Like I said, I don't think that we necessarily needed all three of these red shades in here, but we're gonna roll with it. It is what it is. So I'm not really sure what I wanna do for either of my looks, so I'm just gonna kind of wing it and roll with it and see where this palette takes me. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with this really pretty like mauvey purple shade right here, which is called Softness. And I'm going to pick that up with a BK Beauty 201 brush, and I'm going to start by kind of putting this in my crease. So I'm just going to kind of fluff it right in here, just kind of blending it up towards my brow bone. I'm not going to bring it all the way up to my brow, but I am just going to kind of build up the depth and the definition in my crease and start with a nice soft transition. That is a really pretty shade. I like the way that it's going on. It's building up nicely. I'm not getting any patching, skipping, or fallout, and it's performing the way that I expect it to. All right, so next I think I'm gonna go into this dark gray shade down here. This one is called Reminiscence. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick that up with a Singe Beauty EO6 brush, and I'm gonna put this in my outer corner. So I'm just gonna start kind of blobbing it right out here, building up this outer corner. And then once I have that shade down, I'm gonna start to kind of soften it. I don't wanna have the full opacity of this shade just because it is very dark, and I don't want this look to get too away from me, but I definitely wanna have that depth out here. That is going on really nicely. I'm not getting any fallout. I'm not getting any patching. It is having kind of a hard time sticking right here where I have like that little fold in my lid. So I'm just kind of having to make sure that I press it in there really, really good. But yeah, it's definitely building up, so not impossible to work with. That's more my eyes versus anything else. I'm just gonna kind of blend this out and soften that edge. And once I have that shade down just like that, I'm gonna go back with that first brush and that first shade that I used called Softness, and I'm gonna go right along the edge and just kind of blend it a little bit more, reiterate that shade, and just kind of blend everything out. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and carry those shades down onto my lower lash line as well. So I'm just bringing that dark gray shade down called Reminiscence onto my lower lash line, kind of lining it up with what I did up on my lid. And then once again, I'm gonna go back with that shade Softness, same brush, and I'm just gonna bring this over along the rest of my lower lash line, kind of fluffing and blending and softening the shade out here. And then I think we're gonna go in with a little bit of the black shade and just deepen up the outer corner slightly, and then just kind of leave the mattes where they are. I'm liking the blend that we have going on. I'm liking the gradient, and I think that looks really pretty. All right, so with my Morphe M506 brush, I'm gonna go into this black shade over here, which is called New Year's End, and I am very lightly gonna build up the tiniest amount of depth right here in that outer corner. So I'm just gonna press it right there, and then I'm gonna bring it down onto the outer portion of my lower lash line as well. And once I have that shade down and my brush is kind of cleaned off, I can go back with circular motions and kind of start to blend it out and soften it just a little bit. And if I need to go back in with any other shades, I can if I need to kind of soften it a little bit more. But I do think that is really pretty. It definitely gave me some depth out there, and I think we're ready to move on to some shimmer. Okay, so my lid is primed with my NYX glitter primer, and for all over the lid, we've got some options. We've got this really pretty kind of silver taupey shade down here, which is called Longing, and then we have this one that has like this really pretty kind of mauvey to gold flip to it, which is called Silvery Bliss. So let's do a swatch of each one of them. So first up we have Silvery Bliss, and that's what that shade is gonna look like. Oh, that's really pretty. It almost looks like a rose gold on my hand, but then whenever I look at it in person, it has this really pretty like gold shift to it. Absolutely beautiful. It looked a little bit more purple in the pan, but I like the way that it's swatched out. The other one that we have is going to be the shade Longing, and this one is like a really pretty taupey shade. I think that one's beautiful as well. It has a little bit more of like a purple undertone to it. So I think we're gonna start with this one right here, which is called Silvery Bliss. And then maybe we'll use this one to kind of blend that into the outer corner where that matte shade is, and that one's called Longing. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick up that first shade called Silvery Bliss with my BK Beauty 203 brush. I am going to spray this with a little bit of MAC Fix Plus. I spray every single one of my shimmer shadows before I put them on, so I'm not going to repeat myself throughout this whole video anymore. I feel like I just kind of get very repetitive, but I'm going to go ahead and spray it, and I'm going to start pressing this all over my lid, and I'm going to bring it over to the inner corner, but I don't want to bring the shade into the inner corner. I want to bring in another shade for that. So I'm just pressing this all over the lid, and then once I have that shade down, I can go back and start to kind of blend it and soften it and make sure that we get rid of any harsh lines, and it just blends into everything. But that is so pretty. This is a beautiful smoky look. Not the direction I thought I was going to go with this palette, but I'm liking it so far. Okay, next I'm going to go in with that other shade, this one right here, that taupey shade, which is called Longing. I'm going to pick it up with the same brush. I just kind of wiped it off a little bit. And we're gonna put this right here where that first shade and that matte shade meet, just to kind of blend it together a little bit more, give us more of a seamless transition and soften that line of demarcation. I like my looks to be very blended as much as I possibly can. I'm not a big fan of like cut creases and things like that. I just like a very soft blended look, and that is beautiful. I really like that. To finish this look off, we're going to go into this shade up here for my inner corner. This one is called Silver Stream. So I'm going to go ahead and do a swatch on the back of my hand real quick so you can see what it looks like. This has the most beautiful flip to it. It's like an iridescent shade, but it has like this really pretty pink flip to it and a little bit of a green as well. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that up with my Singe Beauty EO1 brush, and we're going to pop this in my inner corner and just add a little bit of twinkle and sparkle in there. Oh yeah, that's really pretty. I like the way that's going on. I like how soft it is, but let's go ahead and build it up just a little bit more. I think I want a little bit more intensity in my inner corner. Yeah, just like that. That is beautiful. Alright y'all, so this is the first completed look with this palette, and I think this turned out really pretty. I wasn't expecting a cool tone smoky look, but it's definitely what we got, and I'm not mad about it. I think the shimmer looks absolutely beautiful on the lid and in the inner corner. I did get a little bit of fallout with the sparkly shimmer shades, but it did just kind of wipe away. It didn't disrupt anything or just kind of clump to my cheeks and kind of make a big old mess, but I do want to note that. But let's go over what I used to finish off this look so we can create our second look with this palette. So in my lower waterline, I went in with, I don't know, where do things go when I put them down? Here it is. I went in with a Martine Cosmetics eyeliner. This is in the shade Anthracite. And then I lined my lid with my QianYan liquid liner that I got, and I cannot find this anywhere. I'm so sorry. I apologize. But then for mascara, I went in with my Judy Doll Iron Mascara that I've been trying out. So far, I'm liking it, but I'm not sure if I love it. I will keep y'all posted. But let's go ahead and jump into our second look. So for this one, I think I really want to play with some of the reds in here and do something kind of fun and festive with this one, so maybe a little bit of gold as well. But I'm gonna go ahead and start with this really pretty like dusty light pink shade up here, which is called Wishful Dream, and I'm gonna go ahead and pick that up with my BK Beauty 202 brush, which is this one right here, and I'm gonna start by kind of fluffing this into my crease. I'm gonna do pretty much the same technique I did on the first eye and I do for pretty much every single look. So I'm just gonna start to build up the depth, the definition, and a little bit of shape, blending it up to my brow bone and just making sure that it's nice and soft and we don't have any harsh lines. Alright, so to build up the outer corner, I'm kind of thinking I want to go in with this bright red shade right here. At first I was toying with the idea of going with this shade, but I want to do something a little bit brighter instead of muted like we did in the first look. And actually, this shade would have gone beautifully with that shade right there, but it is what it is. We're going to go in with this shade right here, which is called Pure Red. Good shade name, and I'm going to go ahead and pick that up with a Sigma E24 brush, and I'm going to start to pack this in my outer corner and build up a little bit of shape and definition. This is a very pigmented red. I'm hoping that it stays a true red and it doesn't come off super pink. But I'm going to go ahead and pack this on, and that's a really good tip if you have a red shade and you want it to be very true red. Pack the shade on. Don't do a lot of blending, because if you start to blend it out, you're gonna kind of turn it more pinky and it's gonna lose that pigmentation. I have a dog hair. Yeah, I have a dog hair right there. But it's gonna start to lose that true red and turn a little bit pink on you. So I always pack on my reds, and then once I have them down, I just very lightly go along the edge and softly blend it. I don't wanna bring my blending into like the main part of the red because I don't want to lose that red pigmentation. I hope that makes sense. That was a lot of circles that I was talking right there. All right, I'm going to bring that shade down onto my lower lash line as well, and basically doing the same thing. I'm going to start by kind of swiping it a little bit just to get it where I want the shade, and then once I have it down, I can kind of pack it back in. That way I have that true red, and that's kind of a good tip to keep you from having like that pink eye look or like that sickly look, because if you start to blend it out and you put too much red on your lower lash line, that's when you start to get that weird look to it. But I'm just going to kind of pack and blend and make sure that everything is nice and soft. That is a really pretty red. I will give it that. It's taking a little bit of work to build it up, but I'm okay with that. It's not impossible. I'm not getting patching, skipping. It's not doing anything funky. So I don't mind a more buildable red. All right, so I'm going back with that first shade that I used called Wishful Dream, and I am very lightly going right along the edge of this red shade called Pure Red, just to make sure that the edges are nice and soft. We don't have any harsh lines or anything like that. And I am gonna bring it down onto my lower lash line as well. Like I said, I'm just kind of repeating the same technique that I did on the first eye, just with different shades. All right, so next I'm gonna pop into this deeper like burgundy red shade right here, which is called Vintage Memories. And I'm gonna build up a little bit of depth in my outer corner. So I'm gonna pick that up with my Morphe M506 brush. I just wiped it off really good and made sure I got a lot of that dark pigment off. So I'm just gonna pick that shade up and I'm gonna press it right here in the very outer corner and see if this is gonna give me the depth that I want. I am gonna bring it over just a little bit. Yeah, just like that. That's really pretty. It is definitely building up. It's not quite as deep as I thought it was gonna be, but I do like it. It's more on the buildable side, just like that other red shade is. All right, so I went ahead and primed my lid with my NYX Glitter Primer per usual, and we've got some options for all over the lid. So my first instinct was to go into this gold shade right here. I think it's absolutely beautiful, but I'm also looking at this really pretty multi-chrome up here, which is called Golden Cup. I think that one's absolutely beautiful as well. So let's go ahead and swatch those out and see what we want to do. So the first one that we have is going to be Golden Glam, and this is just a really pretty sparkly true gold shade. It has a very strong like yellow base to it. I think that one is absolutely beautiful. But the other one that caught my eye is the shade Golden Cup, and that's this multi-chrome right here. And I think this one is so beautiful, and I think it would go really nice with this look as well. So I can't decide which one I want to do. I'm kind of thinking we're gonna go with the multi-chrome. I don't know. Nobody's here to stop me, so that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and pick up that shade Golden Cup with my BK Beauty 203 brush, and I'm gonna put this all over my lid, and then we'll probably have to go in with something else to kind of blend the outer corner with the matte shade to make sure that it's nice and seamless. So let's go ahead and start here. Oh yeah, that's really pretty. It's really picking up that red in that multi-chrome next to these red mattes. That is beautiful. I cannot wait to see that shift in the mirror. I think it's going to be stunning. All right, so I think that blended really nicely, and we don't need another shade to blend that matte into that multi-chrome. So we're gonna go ahead and go into the inner corner. And I think for the inner corner, we're gonna go into this gold shade down here. It is a little bit deeper, but maybe it'll kind of sheer out a little bit and just add that little pop of something on the inner corner. It's just makeup, it's for fun, it washes off, it's not a big deal. But I'm gonna go ahead and pick that up with my Morphe M213 brush so I can get really precise in there. I'm going to spray it so I can minimize fallout per usual, and I'm just gonna pop this in my inner corner. So we're gonna see what this does. Ooh, that's really pretty. You can definitely kind of sheer it out. It has a deeper base, but it's not so deep that it just really takes over the look. But I definitely want to build that up just a little bit more. So I picked up a little bit more on my brush, and I am going to kind of blend it up onto my lid and down onto my lower lash line as well, just so we don't have like this blob of gold just sitting on the inner corner. All right, y'all, so this is the second completed look with this palette, and I think this one turned out beautiful as well. It is fun, it is festive, it is very on theme, and I love this monochromatic red with that pop of gold on the inner corner. I think it's absolutely beautiful. But let's go over what I used to finish off this look so we can turn the lights down, see the shimmer, the shift, the sparkle, and then we can jump into our comparisons. So I went in with my same liquid liner and mascara that I used in the first look, and then for my waterline, I went in with an Urban Decay 24/7 liner. This is in the shade 0. It's just a black liner, my waterline, and I think it looks absolutely beautiful. All right, Alright y'all, so before we jump into some of my thoughts on these palettes, let's do some comparisons to the other holiday palettes that Oden's has released. So let's start by comparing the Silvery Bliss palette, because this one I feel like is a little bit more comparable to some of the other palettes. Personally, looking at them, I don't think there's any color overlap, but if you have the other ones, I want you to kind of see what you would be gaining if you're thinking about picking these up. So let's go ahead and start by comparing this one to the Merry Christmas palette. This was one of the first ones that they released. They released 2 palettes back in 2022 that kind of kicked everything off. These sold out like crazy. They came back, sold out again. But let's go ahead and compare these two. So this one is beautiful. This is like a very traditional Christmas color story. I love the variety in here. I think they did a fantastic job as far as the depth and the color story goes. But as you can see, there's not any color overlap. It doesn't really compare at all. This is the one that I thought was going to be most comparable to this palette down here, but looking at them side by side, it really doesn't. This one up here is stunning though. Unfortunately, these other palettes are sold out except for one of them. Hey Reindeer is still currently available on the Oden's website. I'll link that one down below in case you're interested in that one as well. But next, let's go ahead and compare to the Christmas Eve palette. So this is the other one that they released with the Merry Christmas palette in 2022, and this one is beautiful. This is one of my favorite color stories. It's very cool toned. It's very unique. I like the depth, the variety in here yet again, and there's just not any color overlap when you're comparing it to this one down here. These two palettes would go beautifully together though. This one up here definitely brings a little bit more lightness and depth that this palette is lacking down here. But we have one more to compare this one to, and that is going to be the Snow Dream palette, which is this one right here. This one came out last year in 2023 along with Hey Reindeer, and those palettes got a lot of hate last year, and personally, they're some of my favorites, and this one is actually probably my favorite out of all 6 that they've released so far. But this one is just so beautiful. It gives vintage Christmas vibes, and it's my favorite. I love the depth in here. It goes very light to very dark, and again, I think this one would pair beautifully with this one. In fact, these two are probably going to be my favorite paired together, but there's just no comparison. You might have a little bit of overlap as far as the red shade goes, but other than that, they're going to be 2 very different color stories. But let's go ahead and pop into our comparison with the Rosy Jingle palette. I only have one palette to compare that one to because both of these are very pastel leaning. So the Rosy Jingle palette is going to be this one right here, and we're going to compare that to the Hey Reindeer palette, which is the other one that released last year. And again, a lot of people didn't like it. I thought it was really pretty. I think it's a beautiful pastel color story, and personally, I like it better than this one down here because we have more depth up here and we have more variety in this one than we do down here. This one, I feel like I get kind of stuck with the 2 palettes that were released this year as far as color story goes. I feel like they were meant to be companions to the rest of these palettes. They weren't really meant to be used on their own, but as far as color story goes, there's not really any overlap with these either. I think they're both beautiful. I think they would pair beautifully together, but I like Hey Reindeer better than I do Rosy Jingle. But let's go over some of my thoughts on these palettes because I definitely have some. So overall, as a whole, I don't think that this year's holiday collection quite hit the mark like last year and the year before did. I feel like the color stories weren't nearly as exciting and nearly as inventive as the ones in year past. They were both beautiful, but like I said, I think they're meant to be more of companion palettes compared to the other ones. Quality wise, they're both fantastic. I didn't have any issues as far as the performance of the mattes or the shimmers go. They all performed the exact way that I expected them to. I did get a little bit of fallout with the shimmers, but it wiped away. It didn't hang around or do anything funky. But the Rosy Jingle, I think, is probably my least favorite out of the 2 just because it is very pastel and it doesn't have the depth that I personally want. We have this brown like satin shade down here that just kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. It kind of doesn't really go with anything. Like putting it with any of these other shades, it just kind of clashes unless you mix it with the yellow shades. I do really like this watermelon pink shade up here, but again, this color story is just missing something that I can't quite put my finger on. But I do think the shimmers in this one are incredibly beautiful. These are probably some some of my favorite shimmers out of all 6 of these palettes sitting here, but as far as these two go, this is probably my least favorite of the two, and Silvery Bliss is going to be my favorite. And even this color story, I'm still not overly impressed with. It doesn't inspire me as much as I was hoping it would. It looks a lot different in person than it does in the pictures, and that's typical with new eyeshadow palettes. They always look different in person than they do in the pictures, but I wish we had a little bit more lightness with this palette. It's almost too dark, and again, that comes down to a personal preference thing. I am very fair skin tone, so I like something a little lighter to kind of blend things out and kind of give me the depth that I want. This palette goes very mid-tone to deep, and I wish these two shades right here, while they do look very pretty, I like the way they performed, I wish they were just slightly lighter, and I wish some of the shimmers were slightly lighter as well, because we do have these two right here, but they're very similar once you kind of swatch them out and look at them in person. But overall, I do think these are pretty palettes. They're just not my favorite out of the holiday releases that they have done so far. Like I said, the Snow Dream is still going to be my favorite. Unfortunately, it's not available anymore. Hey Reindeer is still available, as well as these two right here. So like I said, I will have everything linked and listed down below in that description box in case you want to check out any of these. But that is going to complete this video. It was very long, very winded. I know I wanted to give y'all as much of my opinion and information as I possibly could, but let me know all of your thoughts down below. Let me know if you collect these palettes, if you picked up this year's palettes, what you think of them, which one was your favorite, which look was your favorite. I want to know it all. Let's have that conversation. Light up that comment section. And as usual, I want to thank you all so much for watching my video and spending your time with me. It truly does mean so much to me. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up before you leave. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click on that notification bell so that you can be notified of all my future posts here on my channel. I do post quite a few videos every single week, and I wouldn't want you to miss one. Until my next video, have a good one. Bye.